In truth, Kelly and Conrad are exactly everything that Ollie loved about guitar playing. They were extremely technical, extremely mindful, thoughtful, tasty, all those things. So basically, Kelly and Conrad were essentially the pheromones for this band to attract other people that were much more talented than me to want to play with us. And that started the fire, Billy Joel. Wow, guys, we're only like 70 episodes in before we decided to have an indulgent episode where we think that we're so special that you don't have to have a guest that maybe you know ahead of time other than us.
Stuck with us on this one.
Nice to have a chance, just the three of us, to talk about what we've been doing and, a little more about this past year.
Cory Peza and Siobhán Cronin are the people that you're listening to right now, and we'll hear for the next hour exclusively.
But of course,
maybe we just lost some listeners.
Yeah, of course, that's Benny Goodman who will be talking more than us for the most part. But yeah, if you want to learn a little bit,
scare them away, bro.
You can hear a little bit more about Lost Symphony, our project here, a little more behind the scenes in the podcast and just what's been going on. We appreciate you guys listening. Obviously, go to 2020.com, 2020-d.com. Like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Hit the like button, the bell icon. There's a little animated thing somewhere that's going to tell you what to do. Just do what it says. I promise you it'll be great. And then, let's just dive right into it and listen to us.
We'll see you on the other side.
I hope there's water at the bottom of the pool.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of 2020'd. I'm Siobhán Cronin, here as always with my friends, my cohorts, my Lost Symphony bandmates, Benny Goodman and Cory Peza. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Waking up.
We're drinking coffee this morning.
I know.
Living long and prospering.
A rare morning get together. So.
I know. It's so weird. It's so weird. But.
I know. Normally I'm with my wine, so we're going to have to get some more artwork now of the morning version. Coffee cups.
I know, right?
Paul Lorenzo.
Thanks to Paul Lorenzo. Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't even have an internet connection.
Like we need to go with our NPR voices for this one.
Exactly. Yeah. We need to calm it down. But Benny's had coffee already, so there might be more interruptions than usual. And it's a rare 3-person episode. It's just the three of us, guys.
I know, you're stuck with us for this one.
Wow, great marketing. I'm sure everyone's like, let's go to the next episode now.
But speaking of that, don't forget to like and subscribe, 2020-d.com. We have a lot of great guests that we've interviewed. If you're just joining us, definitely go back and dig into the archives because we've got so many awesome interviews. But it's nice to, we just talked to Richard Shaw. We've had Alex Skolnick. I mean, who else? Like, I almost can't even remember.
Satchel from Steel Panther.
Satchel.
We had Paul Geary. Paul Geary, I told him that John Dene from Anthrax watched his episode.
Also,
and he was
John
like, really,
Dene?
Bud? That's really cool. Wait, so they were watching the episode? I'm like, yeah, man, there's actually people that watch the show beyond my mom. I know it's fucking crazy, but he was like, that's cool, man.
But also not just limited to music people. We've talked to a lot of people in production and TV, like Alex Boylan, Jeff Schroeder, reality television, Cara Maria Sorbello. Don't want to
Burton Roberts, Pauly Calafiore.
Yep.
John Garabedian, one of the greatest DJs of all time. Yep. Steve Stevens, goddamn legend behind the legend that is Billy Idol. Yeah,
so after you watch this episode, go back and watch those ones.
Right. So
Rodolfo Zuniga, who explains jazz to us.
Yeah.
Right, who I just saw yesterday, so.
Oh, really? That's nice.
Yeah.
Tell him we said what's up.
He was asking about you guys.
A professor. Sir.
Yeah, he is. He's becoming a professor. He's moving to LA, so he just got a really big job, a tenure track professor in Los Angeles. So he's moving. My last remaining friends are leaving Miami. I'm the lone
it's
wolf.
eroding. So smart move, Rodolfo.
Yeah. We'll all be underwater at some point.
For this episode, you're getting our guest is Lost Symphony.
Exactly. You're stuck with us.
Do we talk about what this project is so people after 79 episodes, whatever the fuck we're at right now, can actually know what it is?
Why don't you introduce it, Ben?
Wouldn't hurt.
Well, so everyone understands the premise that we basically started this podcast 2020 as a result of not being able to tour or really support our record, which was for a band called Lost Symphony, which is more of a project than it was a band at first. It actually started off as kind of a question that I posed to the interwebs, which was, who's the greatest guitarist out there? And in particular, the greatest guitar player that I haven't heard of. I think I posted that as like one of those stupid, like, I need attention kind of posts on my page, but I got a lot of answers.
That's most posts, I think.
Yeah, it's like I call it the reverse thirst. It's like when the girl posts a picture of her boobs pushed up and she's like, I don't like guys, and she's like, doesn't want attention, but you do want attention. But someone had posted Kelly Carlock, who's the guitarist for Lost Symphony, from Hamilton, Ontario. And I remember watching this guy and just going, holy crap, this dude is outrageous. And I, of course, stalked him on Facebook and was like, oh my God, you're the greatest. I love you. I was a little intense. But then I asked him who he thought was the greatest guitarist that I had never heard of as well. And he said, dude, you gotta check out this guy, Conrad Simon. And Conrad, another fellow Canadian who is of mystical level. We don't know crap about this dude. Like, he just is a mystical guitarist. And I blew my mind. And I said to Kelly, would you and Conrad, who I guess he didn't really know, but they knew of each other, be willing to do a collaboration? And we did a song which is on chapter 1 called Leave Well Enough Alone. And that was kind of our proof of concept. We did that song together, and Kelly and Conrad just sent the most insane, again, it was, for me, for the first time here, it was like cacophony. It was like the most insane guitar playing I had heard since Jason Becker and Marty Friedman. And I was like, these guys really are the best. And I was like, this is a cool thing. And when we went to go get drums for it, because Conrad had programmed these drums that were humanly impossible to play, we approached our friend Jason Costa from All That Remains, and who's one of the sickest drummers on the planet.
Who we've also interviewed, so check out that episode.
Yes, yep. You should definitely check out Jason, because he's fucking hilarious.
And
guy.
Kelly, we also interviewed him. Go on.
But he came on and he played, and he didn't really care, because Jason was just doing me a favor. But Ollie, the guitarist in his band, he was like, oh, he's going to love these guys because of Kelly and Conrad. And in truth, Kelly and Conrad are exactly everything that Ollie loved about guitar playing. They were extremely technical, extremely mindful, thoughtful, tasty, all those things. So basically, Kelly and Conrad were essentially the pheromones for this band to attract other people that were much more talented than me to want to play with us. And that started the fire, Billy Joel.
Yeah, and then once Ollie came on board, he became the beacon that actually attracted people that people care about, which was huge.
The beacon.
And then, long story short, now we're releasing our third record in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, and of course, the single "Take Another Piece." There's a video up online already. Everyone can check it out. Features a lot of the guests that we've talked about, like Alex Skolnick, Marty Friedman, Richard Shaw. Kelly's on there. It was amazing to see how many people were asking about Kelly. Speaking of the best guitarist you've never heard of, right? It was so cool.
I love all the people like, who's Blondie? Or who's Dr.
So many
Jerry
people
Cantrell?
Asking. Yeah, that was very cool to see.
Someone called him Edgar Winter, which I thought was probably the most accurate.
That's awesome, though. It's cool having like that mysterious figure in our videos and in our content.
You know what I love about him, though, is that he's so good that we asked him to play with Marty Friedman and Nuno Bettencourt, and knowing Kelly, he went home and thought of the craziest thing that he could possibly play that only other guitar players would understand how hard it is. Because I listened to the solo and I go, that sounds awesome and that's cool. But then there's like these nerdy guitar players online that are like, who is that guy? His technique is outrageous. He might be the best of them all. And that's the thing, is that Kelly literally can play against or with anybody in the world. And even when you play with Alex Skolnick and Richard Shaw and Nuno Bettencourt and Marty Friedman, there's still going to be a guy going, but that dude is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And the answer is, you're correct.
Yeah,
you are correct.
So what we're seeing now with Take Another Piece, it's got, it's the closest thing we have to, a viral song and video, where we're getting a lot of attention from people that didn't know the band for the first couple records. And we can see that people that are fans of guitar work and musicianship are really connecting with it, because what we essentially have is a 7-8 minute long song that's just, music and notes and stuff in your face, but it's done in a way that people are listening through the entire thing multiple times, which, if you had asked me that a couple of years ago, like, yeah, you guys are gonna be putting out a record with like 8 minute long songs, I'd be like, I don't think we're going to do that.
But I think they serve a different purpose, because, as somebody, I've listened to these records a million times at the gym, And like, when you're at the gym, there's a lot of times you're listening to a song and it's like, you got this vibe going. You're like, bummer. It's only 4 minutes long. Like whatever. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Because it has no lyrics and it has, and it just kind of engulfs you into a trip. I find that even listening to the album all the way through, if I'm on like a life cycle or if I'm on my hoverboard, I'm just like, I feel like I'm in a John Wick film, just like going around, like dodging deer running across in front of me and the turkeys that are in my neighborhood and the one crane and the hedgehog. It's just me against the world with the Lost Symphony music in my head. So I actually think that it fills a need where there isn't a lot of soundtrack music that people can just
it's
put
like the
on
movie
and
score
rock out
music.
to and just say, I'm going to get on my motorcycle.
Lost Symphony, the soundtrack to your life.
Yeah, and we will not pay for your speeding tickets. So please do not ask anymore.
No, it's it seems a bit self-indulgent for us to sit here and talk about the band, but it's a situation where
But go
we
on.
we really have to think of the amount of content that we've put out over the past year. We took what was essentially 5 years worth of work and condensed it down and packaged it in this like nice tight, series of records. Chapter 1, Chapter 2 available now, and Chapter 3, which is available now or probably within a couple weeks from whenever this episode comes out. So please go to lostsymphony.com, purchase a mug, get a mug, this is an infomercial, by the way, now. Only $19.95. Actually, I don't know the price, but...
and the artwork, by the way, is worth buying it alone.
Boris
I
Grow.
gotta tell you, I have it all framed on my wall.
Yeah.
We gotta say special thanks to Boris Grow because everyone keeps saying like, hey, these albums look awesome. But like one of the reasons that people, I feel like, have gravitated back towards vinyl is because the pictures are bigger. So like, yeah, we found a guy who we wanted to do every single piece of art because we saw his art and it was so recognizable. There is art for every single song. And it is so incredible. I mean, look, I'm a nerd and obviously self-indulgent, but I have like 6 or 7 posters of our own artwork. But not because I'm a fan of my band, but because I'm a fan of Boris Grow and that I was so in love with his art. I'm like, I got to put this on my wall. And the fact that it has my band's name on it is cool. Cory's like, I really hope that it doesn't have the band's name. That's why I try to hide that.
I want to buy like the sweatshirt. I'm like, can you just Photoshop out our band?
Although I will say I did have an experience when I went out to go visit our friend Paul Geary, who's another episode, 2 episodes. You should check out Paul Geary, the legendary drummer of Extreme and also legendary manager of guys like Joe Perry and Johnny Depp and Godsmack. But, he came out wearing the shirt that Paul Lorenzo, another episode we've done, was where drew all 3 of us as caricatures, and his wife Jean's like, "Oh, he's wearing it for you." I'm like, "Oh, he's definitely not wearing it for me." Like, and it was one of those things where he was like walking around, and I had a joint in my mouth and the thing, and I'm like, "Can you get the one without me with the joint? Like, I'm trying to be an adult right now, and you're wearing this shirt of me looking like a child." And he was like all proud to be wearing it, and he loved the shirt.
Just embrace who you are, Ben.
It's a very fucking weird thing. You're right, Cory, to be in a room with somebody wearing you on a shirt.
Yeah, there's been several times where I've gone to visit a friend or family, and then they walk out, and I look down, I'm like, oh God, people are gonna.
It's like being at Star Set shows when someone has like your signature tattooed on like
Does
their
Anne Marie?
left boob.
Is she gonna wear it to Star Set? Come on, tell Anne Marie to go backstage wearing it. That's the best promotion ever.
My mom doesn't do t-shirts, so.
Can we make something for her? Can we embroider something for her? Can we make
Maybe
like
make her a
our
bag.
own custom
A
2020?
bag or a
Well,
pair
you know
of
what?
shoes.
We should make a Siobhán jacket because she would wear it.
Oh,
We'll put
yeah.
your face on it, and then we'll just put like 2020 Star Set. All the people that you've done. We'll put like all
A walking
Swarovski
resume
crystals.
of me so that she doesn't even have to talk about it anymore. Yeah, that would help.
Yeah. Merch
anyway.
is interesting. I mean, I think the Lost Symphony is cool because if you go to lostsymphony.com, there's so much to choose from. Like you can definitely find something like just like, and it's all the credit goes to Boris. The world that he created around the music is phenomenal, and it's really cool. If you need something to hang on your wall, if you need something to listen to, if you need something to drink out of, I think there's coasters. There's like all these cool things, and it's
It looks
obviously
cool. Yeah.
we're hawking our stuff because we're broke musicians, but I buy it. I pay for it. Like it's
Yeah.
it's cool stuff.
So everyone knows, like, especially all my friends, like, hey man, can you throw me a shirt? Like, we pay for our own fucking shirts, man.
Support the
Like,
music.
We're like, welcome to the reality of being a musician. Unless you're like Megadeth or Metallica or something where they throw you your own merch because they make $2 million run. Like, you don't get free shirts. So like, if you see us wearing anything or buying, like, Corey paid $39.99 for that fucking mug. You want to know why
It's not $39.99.
I don't
It's
think
cheaper
it's
than
that
that.
it's literally, but it's all print on demand because no band could afford to have everything warehoused and printed up because we have to wait for you guys to decide that you like us, and hopefully you like us enough where we can do large runs of these shirts and then maybe we can get our own shirts for free. But like, this is the reality of being in a band. That said, Boris Grow has made it very expensive to be in this band.
$14.99. $14.99.
It's the shipping
It's a
that
steal.
they fuck
It's
you
a
on.
steal.
That's why you
Ben,
got to buy
you're
multiple things because they
disincentivizing
fuck
people
you on the
from buying
shipping.
the
dude.
stuff.
It's like,
you're making it harder for people right now. In any event, the point is the artwork is awesome. It looks cool. The coasters, the mugs. Yes, go buy it. Support the music.
LostSymphony.com.
But coming back to the podcast, though, since we're kind of, that's what we're here for. It's what's been cool, also being in Lost Symphony is we've gotten to really talk to all the people that for the most part we were only playing with or interacting in terms of creating music, right? So it's been really cool after the fact doing all these albums to go back and talk to people like Richard Shaw.
David Abbruzzese.
Like David Abbruzzese, talking to Kelly, who I've never even been in the same room as, right? So it's,
None of us have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's another thing is just understanding the way that Lost Symphony works is we are, the definition of a pandemic band before there was a pandemic,
right.
We
Years
were ahead of the
before.
trend.
We've never all been in the same room, which is crazy. I think the closest we've come are these 2020 episodes, which is funny. Like you're in a band with someone for 5 years and you talk to them for the first time
On a Zoom call.
in a Zoom call.
Well, I was gonna say I talked to Kelly for the first time, like it was when we were first working with Rusty Cooley, also an episode, along with Angel Vivaldi.
Also an episode.
I was in Mexico, man, and I was using at the time Skype was the main offender versus Zoom, and I think I went to Mexico twice and talked to Kelly and Rusty and tried showing Rusty how to plug into his computer before Rusty actually delivered a solo. So that was like years. That was like 2 years that I went to Mexico and we still didn't have Rusty play on the record, and we're still like
you went to
plugged into the
Mexico and
computer.
talked to Kelly in Canada, and then
and Rusty in Texas.
Yeah.
It was awesome. That's how I had to go to a different country to talk to them.
Lost Symphony brought together people that we would never expect to be, in communication with in any way, shape, or
Many
form.
thanks to Ollie, because he did start that
Right,
fire.
and
'Cause
that-
people all the time ask, like, how did you do it? Well, it started with Ollie, and then I just took the ball and ran with it.
And Ollie's how I met you guys, so that was such serendipity. It's, in a lot of ways.
I literally remember the call. I've said this before, but like I was DJing a wedding in Newport, Rhode Island, like this bougie wedding. And then like during, I want to say like cocktail hour when I have like a mix going or some shit. I get a message from Ollie like, dude, you got to call me now. Like there's this girl and she plays violin like crazy, and I think she's down to be a part of what we want, and we want strings, don't we? Like because we talked about orchestrating things because Brian, my brother, is amazing at orchestrating an orchestra, but why have fake strings when you can have real strings? So I remember so excitedly calling Siobhán and just being, hey, so I am in this band and Ollie's awesome and this is great, and like just downloading on her like, do you want to come to Boston? And I closed the sale the first fucking call. She's like, yeah, I'll come to Boston. I'm like, oh, and then my life is better. And like literally talk about the one thing that again, people are like, why wouldn't you and Siobhán be married? Because she was too easy to get along with from the very beginning. That's why there was no conflict. I was like, Siobhán, do you want to come to my house from Miami? She's like, sure. And then she was there. And then I was never attracted to her again.
Thanks, Ben. So there needs to be conflict.
It's the truth is you had to have hated me for at least 6 months for me to ever be attracted to you.
I think if I didn't come to Boston,
that's why I love Corey. I have a gay crush on him because he's hated me for 6-7 years. He's been playing that time, that fucking sexy bastard.
Okay, well, after you called me, I probably felt afraid that you would come hunt me down if I didn't come to Boston. So I was like, well, what are the odds? I might as well just go. And so I might as well.
I will come to catch a predator. It's like I'll just threaten you into coming so I could like threaten you in person.
No, but it's funny when
like
I think about career, a lot of classical musicians talk about this, like how do people end up on certain paths, or how did you build a career? And so much of what I trace back, like something that turned into something big or like a really big part of my life, I can go back and trace it down to like one tiny moment where if I was like, no, or like didn't listen to someone or was like too into my own thing and ignored them, like I would not have done any of that, you know? So much of it is just like being out there and like throwing stuff out there.
How many opportunities do you think were squandered by you speaking on the phone to Brock for long periods of time?
I don't think many. I try to push it into certain. I don't ever not answer people though. So if someone calls me about something, I always call them back, or, you know. So I wouldn't attribute that.
It's interesting. You don't often, and maybe it's just confirmation bias, but you don't hear often people saying the opposite of like, oh, this terrible thing in my life can trace back to this one decision. This one decision made everything terrible. It's always the opposite. Usually if something terrible is going on in your life, it's a series of terrible decisions.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So it's, that's just another example of like, say yes, try it out. It doesn't work out. Nothing bad usually happens, unless you Ben.
Is this what you tell girls when you tell them you don't want to wear a condom?
Well, I was going to say, unless Ben was a serial killer, then Siobhan's decision to come to his house would have been a bad one. But, it worked out okay, and we're here now, so.
Yeah. I guess when you have enough people talking about another person that you trust, it's like, well, all right, this person is probably...
Yeah, that's the guy you should trust, the 6'4" guy with the beard and long hair that smells like metal.
No, but when you were around him, though, there's like an in-person aura where, you feel like someone's genuine. That's hard to do over the internet. But I mean, when you're in the same room as him, like I could tell that he was like
Ollie didn't have the capacity to not be genuine.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be way too difficult for him. Imagine him trying to be sneaky about something.
Yeah, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah, the sneakiest he got would be like, go into your kitchen at 2:00 in the morning to take another burrito. And, sorry, man, I was hungry. Like, you're like, oh, dude, you could have just told.
Like, who stole the burrito? Ollie's just got like sauce on his shirt. Like, I don't know, man.
Literally, yeah, dude. He stole food. Like he totally did. Like he would like eat food in the middle of the night, and I'd be like, dude, have at it. He'd be like, I didn't eat it. Like, dude, just tell me you ate it. It's fine. Like it's okay. Like, oh, I didn't though. Yeah, you did, you fat ass.
Oh my gosh. No, but like all the positive change in my life happened outside of my comfort zone, So there was most things that I ended up getting into that turned out to be great. At the time that they started, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for this or if I can do this or, So I think you always have to be a little bit uncomfortable to embark on something that's going to turn into a greater thing, right? I mean, yeah. I feel like that's pretty common. Even talking to a bunch of the people that we've had on the podcast, it's always these random moments of being asked to do something that's like, oh, I guess I'll try it.
It's one of those common themes that always comes up, and it's one of those. It's what I'm grateful for on the podcast is it's confirmation of kind of that cliche advice that people spew. You can tell a lot of it's bullshit and a lot of it's real, and this show has allowed us to kind of narrow in on what mindsets and decision making has gone into what's actually made people successful, as opposed to like getting self-help and life advice from someone that you're like, dude, you're me. Like, why would I take advice from you? Like,
right.
You're also doing the same shit I'm doing, but like getting to talk to people that are at a higher level, doing things that, when you look at from the outside, you're like, how the hell did they get there? And 95% of the time it's because they were ready and they said yes. And prior to that, they said they were ready and said yes to things that didn't work out, but they still said yes to that next thing. Mm-hmm. And that's what led to that growth. And then, as people ascend in their careers and success, those asks and those things they try out generally lead to, they take bigger steps. It's almost like this crazy curve where after you get to a certain point, the opportunities that arise that you can take you even further. And that's why we get people that are super cool and down to earth, but incredibly successful. And they're just sitting there like, I have no idea. I agreed to do this and now I'm here.
Well, you nailed my favorite part of the show, dude, which, when we first started this, we didn't know what the fuck it was. We really didn't.
I still don't. I have no idea what's going on.
We still don't, waiting. But I can tell you what it feels like from my perspective is like we're doing like a 2-hour LinkedIn with like somebody that we admire for whatever reason that we decide to have them on the show. Because understand that everybody that's on the show, like the thread in common is that all three of us want to talk to them for whatever reason, and because we admire something they've done. And I think it's such a privilege because, a guy like, for example, Shannon Larkin, I'm playing in his band now because he heard Lost Symphony And because like we talked on the show and like we found out like, bro, are we best friends? And like, yeah, man, like I want to go down to Florida and like hang out with his turtles. Like I love that guy. You know what I mean? Like, and I've become even closer friends with David Abraziz, who I've known for years now, and we've done many songs. But like, I feel like Siobhán and Cory can probably attest to this. Like, we've got really below the water to understand that dude. And I feel like every time we talk to somebody, it's a very selfish thing for us because we get to like, you know, you listen to someone like Elizabeth Jaroff from The Charismatic Voice. Yeah. We're literally going, how did you do that? Yeah. Tell us more.
Yeah.
No, really. Have your husband tell us more of how to win the internet because they're winning. And like, I feel like even with what I'm doing, like, so right now I went and shot a pilot for the show, The Neurotic Guitarist, like out in Vegas. Like I shot it, like we shot a pilot and like, it's crazy. Cause it's like one of those things like, well, what are you going to do? I'm not really even employed. That's the truth. I'm not even employed. So like, I'm just going for it because everybody that we've had on the show has told me, well, that's how you do it, man. You just jump off into the pool and hope there's water and not just cement.
Yeah.
It's true. And it's cool because it's consistent regardless of what the people are doing. You can be a metal musician. You could be someone in TV. You can be a YouTube person. Anything that you're creating something. It's the same principles regardless of what exactly you're doing.
Holy parallel, Batman, because I was just at, again, Paul Geary, who manages Godsmack and Johnny Depp, and again was a drummer in Extreme. I was at his house, and he goes, "Hey man, can you give me a guitar lesson?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course."
A drummer wanting a guitar lesson,
dude. The amount of cliches during that lesson was hilarious. And like I said, so first off, I told him the first thing Kelly told me, which is if you're not practicing to a metronome, you're not practicing. He's like, "Really?" I'm like, no, you're just playing for yourself. Like, is that what you're trying to do? And then the first thing he did was he started playing chords. He goes, but sometimes I fuck up these notes. And I'm like, then play slower. Like, how are you raking the string? And then I looked him right in the eye and I'm like, do you actually want to play when you're around Nuno Bettencourt or fucking Jimmy Page or the people, or Jeff Beck, the people he hangs out with, or Joe Perry? Do you want them to go, oh my God, the drummer can play? Because he has rhythm. He has rhythm. But he doesn't know how to connect those synapses there. And after the whole thing, we got cut off by dinner because the ladies wanted us, so we had to stop. And I said to him, I hope you really internalize what I said, man, because I know I didn't say it or whatever. And he looks at me and he goes, listen, bud, everything I do it and I'm listening. Secondly, it's just like everything apparently, which is you got to do it slow. You got to do it right. Mm-hmm. So I should just know by now that if I'm going to play guitar, this is how I get good. And it's the same way I got good at everything else and just learned these capacities kind of thing. And I was just like, I left because the best thing you could ever hope for when you hope to impart some knowledge on someone is for them to be like, not only did I learn that, but fuck you for doubting me. And that was the greatest part about it. And that's why, again, Paul Geary was a great drummer behind Nuno Bettencourt because he fucking did all those things and he worked hard.
You don't get to that level of success without having that mindset and that approach to things. You know, if he was like, yeah, you know, whatever, like that, if that's how he approached stuff, then, you know, it would be a different story of who you were visiting in Las Vegas.
But who's the joke on now, Joe Perry, if fucking Paul Geary actually pulls out like some Aerosmith like it's one thing if he pulls it out like a drummer and you're just like, dude, stay behind the drums.
Joe Perry will still just be like, I'm fucking Joe Perry. Who cares?
Right. Well, he'll wake up with all of his chains and his necklaces on with the sunglasses and just be like, whatever.
Yeah, Paul can't be.
Well, he has a picture. Paul has a picture of Joe Perry and Steven Tyler from like the greatest period, like the early to mid 70s, right? And Joe Perry's face is completely covered by hair. Like, there's no way he can see through this mop. And mostly Steven Tyler, too. And I was like, do you even think they need to see to know how badass they are? Like, and that's the thing. It's like, when you look at those guys together, that is rock and roll. And it's crazy to me to see a guy like Paul Geary, who's a legend, still get starstruck. Like, oh my God, I got to hang out with Joe Perry. And it's like, bro, Queen called you the next band to take over rock and roll. And I saw the letter on his wall from Brian May saying, thank you for coming and playing the show. You kicked ass. You'd be surprised at how many people are asking about who your singer was and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, the only thing that confused me was he asked about Gary more than Nuno. I'm like, wouldn't you think that the girls in Britain would be more Nuno? But they're Gary people over there. which is strange, but I love Gary, and I think he's one of the greatest singers. But like, we all know that Nuno is the most beautiful man on the planet.
You have such a talent for taking a conversation from one place to somewhere completely different, where the punchline
it's
is
a giant Nuno joke. Always.
And you can catch Nuno on Take Another Piece, which is out now.
Exactly.
So go watch it. Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm lost now. I have no idea what's going on. Which is
.com. LostSymphony.com.
Yes, LostSymphony.com.
July 9th, Chapter 3.
Yeah, which I don't know when that is in relation to this being released.
Featuring Cory Peza.
Right.
On like 73 instruments. And it's funny because Cory's talking about how like we had so much stuff. We did so much material and produced so much stuff. What he meant to say is that he mixed and edited incredible body of work in a short period of time, and which is why he has permanent bags under his eyes. And Scott hopefully will write off the fillers that Cindy can now put under your eyes, courtesy of one Scott.
Yeah, no, it's
please, Scott.
It's one of those things you mentioned earlier that I think we all listen to. I don't listen to our records anymore because I heard them ad nauseum.
Sure.
So I will at some point go back and listen to them, but I heard these records more than anyone, I promise you. But the fact that being able to look at how much work went into them and how amazing it is to me that they actually came out or are coming out or were finished in any way, shape, or form, because the chaos that these were born from blows my mind. It is a miracle that we didn't accidentally delete the record 4 times. Like we are.
Oh, there were some accidental deletions.
We have no business doing what we do, really. Like,
can I tell you that one of the things I want to include in the box set, because we're going to release a box set, guys, of all 3 of the chapters, so you can buy a cool thing.
Is the story about losing string stems?
But I think we need to have, like, for liner notes, we need to have like the Marty Friedman Diaries, because the back and forth when we first met Marty Friedman, he's the most polite, professional gentleman, and that I can only liken our back and forth through email to like one of those old 17th century old-timey letter correspondences where it's like, yes, sir, ma'am, I found today very enjoyable. But upon looking at my schedule, I figured that I am actually playing a show at a large arena tomorrow. But do you find it agreeable in July, maybe the second week, for me to give you my magic? Like, whoa, Friedman. Like, so that there's so many interesting stories on this record of like what happened and what didn't happen and how things almost didn't come out or came out, or drama.
Yeah, the weeks leading up to the delivery, not the release necessarily, but the delivery of our masters have been the craziest. Every time, the past 3 records, life just
Always
turns
chaos.
into a living hell. And
thanks, Scott.
We all go into a vortex, and it's not it's just because literally like we learned how to create records while making these records, essentially. Like I think Ben and I have been making music. Like, making the music's the easy part. It's the putting it all together in a way that we can actually share it with people, because no one's ever given a shit about what we've made before. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, people are going to hear this stuff. We got to put like an actual, we got to put artwork with this. We got to do liner notes. We got all this stuff that goes into presenting and packaging and delivering a record. We were, figuring out up until the last possible second.
Like metadata on the song, so when people go to Spotify or something, it says it actually features an artist versus just like Marty Friedman happens to physically be in Lost Symphony. Oops.
Yeah, it's insane, the stuff, and I'm grateful. It was a crash course in how all this stuff works for us. Certainly learned a lot. Looking forward to our future endeavors going into them with the knowledge we have now will be great. Looking back on the previous few releases, there's parts that luckily anyone that buys the record will never know about.
Right.
But once again, it's just amazing seeing the physical product and getting it out there on Spotify and on the physical CDs and the vinyls and all that stuff. You would have no idea the blood, sweat, and tears and whiskey that went into creating these things.
Sure. And what's amazing to me too, as being a classical musician, is so many people that I work with over the course of my life have never or will never be a recording artist, right? Never do an album, be on an album, or be part of like writing something. It's all based on live performance or being hired for different orchestras, things like that. So the amount of stuff that I learned just being a part of an album process is incredible. You really do inherit so many skills that you would never get if you didn't do recording.
But one of the most humbling things and the most rewarding thing is like, you know, and I know maybe Siobhán, coming from the classical world, you can't relate to this certainly as much as Cory and I know Brock, I'm sure, can relate to this, is that you're in a band, you get together with a bunch of people for like 6 months, a year and a half, you do some stuff, you do a few shows, you work really hard to get to those shows, and then you break up for whatever reason, and you have no testament or virtually nothing at all. You know, not even like a fucking bad cell phone recording of like to show that this ever happened. And like, to me, that's just such a crazy waste of time. That's not true.
You have like 6 months of posts on social media going, coming soon. You guys are going to love this. This is going to be great. So, hanging in the studio, you know?
Yeah, I joke around that Cory and I have thrown away more albums than we've even let most bands ever even have the opportunity to record. Like literally like, we're just done. We're just going to leave that one alone. And like, I mean, we go back on our computers and we never hear it again. But the thing that's great about this is that we got to play with some of the greatest musicians ever. Like one of the coolest moments, like that really told me like how bananas being in this project was. We were talking to Mikey Doling, who's also another guest.
I was talking to Mikey
on my Facebook, and I had just posted something with Marty Friedman, and earlier I had posted a side thing I'm doing with David Abraziz, where we cover a Kinks song, and he posted on the wrong post, and I thought he was talking about David, and he was talking about Marty on my David post. And I was just like responding back with David stuff about Marty. And I'm like, wait a minute, are you talking about Marty? And he was like, sorry, it was the wrong post. And I realized like, I'm playing with so many legends on this record. Like if I die tomorrow, and I hope I don't, I know some of you probably do, but if I die tomorrow, that like, I'm so happy knowing that like I got to play with all of these people, and that like my mixtape, like it is not lost on me that like, you know, Marty Friedman, who I grew up listening to all the time, every fucking day of my life, or a guy like Satchel, who I literally have admired for a decade, just knowing of it since the day I knew of his existence. Bumblefoot, who's at one point I literally said to myself, like, there's nobody better live than this guy. Like I saw him play with the fretless guitar in like 2007. I played a show called Loco Bazooka with Dan Hartwell, who we also have an episode with. And I got to see Bumblefoot, and I was just like, holy fucking shit. And that's not even all. And those guys are all on our record, to the point where like the internet is like, I can't even believe this happened. And one of the reasons that I wanted this to happen was because I am such a nerd for this stuff that I'm like, there's going to be others. They're going to be like, holy shit, you put NUNO and Alex and Friedman on the same song. Like, and I feel like almost the people behind us financially like didn't even believe us until they started reading all the comments on YouTube, which are just like, I can die happy now because NUNO and Alex played on a song. Did you know that Marty Friedman's God? Oh my God! Well, Marty, NUNO for the win! Like,
yeah,
it's
just funny.
Like 1,000 comments of that.
Just a little, not off topic, but on that note, like the on the Take Another Piece comments, there's so many people that are Team NUNO, Team Marty.
Yeah,
and there's a few, and then the Team Alex, and they all comment from the perspective of like, oh, clearly everyone on this song was trying to be more like NUNO, or everyone's trying to be more like Marty. They're all trying to compete with, you know.
My favorite is when people say that NUNO sounds like Andy James, who wasn't even born when NUNO came out with like his best work, and then other people that are like, oh, this sounds like this Dream Theater song, and I'm just like, no, Dream Theater just sounds derivative of the same derivative classical music.
They're just comparing. There's similar.
No, I know, but they're like, oh, you ripped off that riff, and it's like, dude, I haven't even heard that song.
No one's saying rip off.
I'm mad at you, internet. I'm mad. I'm gonna find all of you and fucking infiltrate you.
The comments are overwhelmingly positive, which is great to see. And then
it's just that one guy.
The criticisms are great criticisms. They're clearly from people that don't like instrumental music, which is hilarious. They're like, I'm bored with this. Like, where's the singing, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if you don't like guitar, and if you don't like this like kind of orchestral, like very cinematic vibe, you're not going to like us, but that's okay. That's completely fine. If you want music,
if you're basic and you think that Old Town Road was the best song and deserves to be the greatest song of the year, we are not for you.
Old Town Road's a jam, man. But yes, if that's your jam,
is that what you close with now with Adam Hanna?
I don't think we've done that in a while. But yeah, no, I mean it's great to see that for the people, you know, like it comes down to, we made this music because it's music that we like. You know, it's the stuff that if I didn't have to listen to it 40 billion times in the mixing process, I would listen to it every now and then.
Sure,
but
it's been ruined for you.
If we didn't like it, then this whole process would have been miserable, because you have to appreciate the virtuosic like guitar work. You have to appreciate the composition and everything like that. And
no, I don't, said the internet trolls.
Good. I'm glad they gave us a view and a comment. It's great. But for the people that do connect with that, and I think have been searching for a style of music, a modern style of music that fits what they grew up with a lot of, because this type of music was a lot more common, at least in like the cacophony sense of
right.
like that really crazy guitar work being the forefront, and the guitar work being the vocals of the music. That's something that it's a smaller market or a niche that now, and we're seeing now the people that come across are like, oh shit, that people are still making that music.
Thanks, video games.
Yeah, right. Get us in a video game.
Can I also tell you that, like, as a guitar fan, look, Nuno. Let's just talk about my favorite person. He didn't, and he even said to us, like, I'm not a shredder. Don't call me a shredder. I mean, he's on tour with Yngwie Malmsteen, Zakk Wylde, and Steve Vai, and Tosin Abasi, but he's not a shredder at all. But he even when he came out with Schizophonic, everyone expected him to have like this crazy shred guitar record, and he didn't do it because he's Nuno, and he doesn't want to give anyone else what they want. He wants to give you what he wants, which is what's awesome about him as an artist. That said, when he came and played on this record, I mean, I don't think he's really released a whole lot since 2009. Like, I'm sure Extreme's sitting there going, wait, why? Yeah. But he put one of my favorite, if not my all-time favorite, Nuno solos on this song, because it's everything I love about Nuno. He's got notes that like you didn't expect. He's fast. He's slow. He moves his head like Zakk. I don't want to say like Zakk Wylde. It's like Nuno, and shakes the dream catcher and the feather, and it's so rock and roll. But the greatest compliment of all was, I love the guitars Neely Brosh. She's the sister of Ethan Brosh, who played on Singularity, and she's one of the greatest I don't want to say female guitarist. She's like one of the greatest guitarists out there right now. And she's now playing with Danny Elfman. So I'm like, totally a fan. So I had messaged her because I had ordered a poster and it wasn't signed, and I thought it was signed. So she was nice enough to send me a signed poster. So in thanks, I always see her post about Nuno Bettencourt, and Nuno in return has posted her as inspiration. So I sent her Take Another Piece, like before we had released it, as a thank you. Never listened to it. I see Ethan Brosh at a guitar show and he's like, oh, my sister saw the new Nuno song, which, by the way, if you go to his Instagram or his Facebook, whatever, it's just the cut up parts of Nuno, which is great because it's just like straight to the meat and potatoes. And I gotta say that, like, I would just fast forward to Nuno anyway, because why not?
I recommend watching the whole video though.
Yes.
Whatever. Who cares about anyone else other than Nuno? Team Nuno. But that said, she was like, dude, Ethan, have you heard the new Nuno song? Have you heard the new Nuno song? Say that 5. New Nuno song, because her favorite guitarist is Nuno. And Ethan just looked at her and goes, that's Benny's band, right? Like, that's Benny. And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, the creepy guy being like, hey, listen to my song.
The guy trolling you on the internet.
That's with Nuno.
Spamming you.
That was one of the greatest compliments, because she was so excited about new music from Nuno. And if there's anything that we were able to achieve with this record, we got Nuno to release something that's 4 minutes straight of him shredding.
People really appreciated it. I mean, so many comments.
I would call it shredding, playing beautifully.
Yeah. Well, he's an artist, of course. So.
Yeah. So go to lostsymphony.com and buy things.
You're right. Our giant infomercial of an episode.
Yes. We'll be here all night. You guys are now funding our show. Yeah. So if you do a donation of $500, we'll send you some Boris Grow artwork and a coffee mug and even some records.
By all night, we mean another 15, 16 minutes.
Okay. Corey's the timekeeper, so I never know how long we've gone. I forget to pay attention.
It's not important anyways. But anyways, so yeah, that go support Lost Symphony. Check out all the great guests. Go back and listen to all the cool episodes with our guests. They're fascinating. But I guess in the last section of this episode, maybe we can dive in a little bit to what we've been up to for the past
good idea.
Year or so. Like Siobhán, you were a constantly touring musician who hasn't been touring for the past year. So how are you, how have you been weathering all this? I know you're keeping busy.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I mean, Lost Symphony actually did take up a fair chunk of recording time, finishing up chapter 3. But besides that, I really took the year to try and dive into honing some more skills, like a lot of the guests that we've talked to. Just kind of getting better with the technology, trying to get into making some videos. I've been taking classes online at Berkeley to learn about production, since between the two of you, I'm not the most techie person. But, it was surprising how quickly things started to pick up, at least in Miami. What Ben's pointing at the screen saying that we can't hear him. No, we can't hear you, Ben.
Oh, this is imitating you.
This is
great.
I just got super excited, and now I'm really disappointed.
I know, yeah. But I've always been somebody that, like, as someone that says yes to too many things, of course, always getting pulled into different projects. I've been working with a singer here in Miami who I've been kind of her music director, creative director for a bunch of different projects and shows. A lot of collaborations. I just did a video collaboration with a girl who's like a sort of a metal singer. I think she's in South America or maybe overseas. So we're doing kind of mashup video. So a lot of just like remote collaborations, recording projects, just trying to keep myself motivated, practicing a lot.
How have you felt with the lack of the live performances? Obviously, I know you have some more like regular local gigs that you've been doing, but with the lack of touring in your life, how has that been?
It's been hard because I love traveling. I love seeing new places. And for me, creatively, I get I feel like my brain is just more inspired in its natural state when I'm interacting with different people, seeing new places, having new experiences. And when I get into too much of a rhythm, or I'm, in an enclosed environment, sitting in a studio all day, for example, even if I'm going out and doing a local gig here or there, it's harder for me to feel creative and inspired. I start to kind of hit a wall at a certain point, and I really need that, something new, something fresh. So it's definitely been rough. It's emotionally difficult, but it's, hope is on the horizon.
That's true.
So we'll see. What about you guys? Cory, what else have you been up to besides Lost Symphony hell?
Yeah, not a whole lot, it's I'm very fortunate that we have the podcast, and that we did, take all this work we've done over the past, 5-6 years with recording and putting together the Lost Symphony content, that it all is being rolled out over the past year or so, because that's a lot of work, and we don't have a big team here. So I think, there's been certainly like roller coasters of just time where it's taking a lot of the things that have to get done to put out this music and to put together this podcast, and they kind of like compress into like really long days where it feels like weeks go by like that. And then, and then once, the record's out, and then there's this like kind of period of relief and breath where it's a pretty comfortable amount of work, but still a lot of work to maintain all the content we have to put together, because Lost Symphony doesn't stop. We put out videos constantly, looking behind the scenes in the studio, looking at Boris's artwork. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into which we don't have a singer. So for people to get to know the band and who we are and what we're doing, we have to get creative with that stuff. And fortunately for me, as someone who doesn't have, a normal job, this has been a pretty consistent experience for me, putting that stuff together and helping to get the word out about what we're doing. And I also have the studio here that I'm fortunate to have people come in, and especially more recently now with COVID, letting up and people being able to be in the presence of someone else in the same space. It's been great to like actually be creating music again and producing music from people that are coming in and hearing, getting outside of the Lost Symphony mindset, which is, the more is more. How can we fit more notes? How can we fit more orchestra? How can everything be louder? Can we get everything louder? So now going back to like the more stripped down rock and roll, some pop, some country, some different genres that
like Matt LaPierre's new band, who also is in Lost Symphony, and also episodes.
Yeah. Matt's episodes are great. And his band 3 Years Gone, I've been working with for the past several months, and it's been
sick sounding record.
Yeah.
It's been amazing to step back and go, okay, we're going to create something that's for people that don't want to, internalize the intense cinematic shreddy things that are going on.
Yeah, it's country pop.
It's country pop icing
got a
over
lot
some
else,
straight up rock and roll.
Yeah,
I mean, like
riffage.
Nickelback.
It's like, it's got all my favorite elements of like, extreme riffage and the AC/DC beats, and it's just very, very different from what I've been doing the past year, and I'm very grateful for that. And I have a few other people I'm working with, Adam Hanna, a friend of Ben and I, that is doing much more
super talented,
much more
obnoxiously in tune with things too. Because every time I see any of your posts online, I'm just like, what did Adam make you do today? Because that kid's always like trying to do something like he's on the edge, and he's great, but it's just like creative. It's tiring to watch him.
Yeah, and he's doing stuff that's even more, in that the younger pop stylistic. So,
I'm dreamy.
I'm stretching out my experience doing more programmed, dancey things and
didn't you get a new guitar at the beginning of this episode to go play it?
I can't wait to end this episode so I can go open my new guitar. It's sitting in a box in the hallway right now.
Oh my!
You can totally get it and open it on the show. Like there's nothing wrong with that, because I'm doing the neurotic guitarist, so we can do a neurotic guitarist segment right now. We can just watch you on the other screen.
I don't think it would be that fascinating, but we'll see.
It's up for us to judge.
No, but yeah, so it's been exciting. Things are new all the time, which I think is the most important thing we could ask for in our profession, is that you're not getting tied down to just one project. We all have a lot of things going on. I know, Ben, you can talk about, we'll actually let you talk about the neurotic guitarist without cutting you off if you'd like to tell us what's going on.
He's been good. He sat back and let us talk about ourselves a little bit. So good job, Ben. The coffee wore off.
Trying to take notes.
You got 5 minutes. Let's see.
Get the big timer.
Well, aren't you supposed to ask me a question first?
Well, the question is, what have you been up to aside from the Lost Symphony craziness?
I'm so glad you asked that, Siobhán. Well, it's been crazy, just like you guys. The first thing that's really cool that I definitely agree with Cory is that like every day is new. Mm-hmm. Like it's a new anxiety. It's a new
new
thing to lift you
drama.
Up. Yeah, and like it's like today. Marty Friedman said this, and like, getting a text message from NUNO is like, a whole day of experience for me. Like, so when I say that like everything's new, it's the beginning of COVID. I started a DJ company because I was DJing, and I was like, oh, maybe it's time for me to become the pimp as opposed to the whore. And,
That's one way of putting it.
Almost $50,000 to not do a single wedding was slightly depressing. But now it's forced me out of my shell. And like it basically forced me and my fiance to move in together and cohabitate, which basically made the pandas get along. We're like, and now we're like,
one
I
inevitably
like
does.
you. I'll bring you the honey. And like, now I'm engaged. So that happened. And then I started yelling at a camera like I've always done, but like more seriously with my friend Jim Foster.
With more direction,
and made this thing called the Neurotic Guitarist, which me just basically talking about my nerdy obsession with guitars, which by the way, Siobhán, I want to say thank you, because you and Brock were like my first fans, because even though we were doing this and playing on Lost Symphony, Siobhán, when I first made my first few videos, would share them and be like, you're gonna be a star. Doesn't matter that we're in like Lost Symphony with all these famous people. Like, doesn't matter that we're on like 2020 talking to all these famous, established, very hyper successful people. This guitar thing, you nerding out about guitars, it's a thing, and that's what's gonna do it. So now we had an investor put some money into it, which is just so humbling and crazy. And we went out to Vegas and we filmed it. And the thing is, it started off about like me talking about like, this is Rosewood, to like me and Cindy, my fiance, just kind of like fighting and doing normal things.
Transition
that are
into
very
reality
TV.
Since,
all we watch is Discovery Plus, and if it has any form of substance whatsoever, we immediately turn it off. But I've realized that with like a lot of those reality characters, they can get you fucking forever. Like, look at the Jersey Shore. Those people are gonna be 60 years old still going to some fucking country because people are just in love with those characters. And if there's anything I am, it's a character.
Indeed. So go check out the Neurotic Guitarist.
.com.
And
hold on. Actually, the other thing I forgot to say is that Jason Becker, we've been doing work with Jason Becker, like every guitar player, and Herman Lee, fucking killing it. And, but We've been trying to raise some money. We got some investors to put some money behind some of the guitars that have gone out, and we hope to do a whole lot more for Jason. So stay tuned for that, as well as with the Neurotic Guitarist. I will tell you that my buddy Jimmy and my buddies Jimmy and Joe out in Jersey. We're gonna talk to them a bunch because they were Les Paul's best friends and have a bunch of Les's cool, badass artifacts and amazing stories, which just trump anything. And much to my complete and utter horror, a lot of the stuff that they have hasn't been properly archived or put in a way. Like this stuff should be in the Met or in the Smithsonian or the Louvre, like. Because Les Paul was, like, in my mind, tantamount to Leonardo da Vinci of our time. He was the Steve Jobs of guitar, except not such a dirty asshole hippie, So, like, I'm going to hopefully bring him back to life through a lot of the stuff that Jimmy and Joe are the gatekeepers for. And I call him Jimmy only because Les Paul called him that. His name's Jim. He's a retired police officer. So, like, I should probably call him Jim out of respect. But he's like, Benny, you can call me whatever you want. So, howdy, Jimmy. Miss you, bro.
A lot of exciting things coming your way. And yeah, I mean, this is, it's been nice to actually have an episode here where we're able to dive a little deeper into who we are and what we're doing. Because sometimes, our guests are these massive personalities and these people that we're just sitting here being fans a lot of the time,
absorbing the knowledge.
So it's good that we can take an episode and just make people dumber with our stupidity.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
we got to even it out a little bit.
Is anyone still listening? Like, I feel like I should be playing Pink Floyd. Like, is there anybody out there?
I don't know. We'll have to check our YouTube analytics and see.
How long do you think the average watch is on this? Like a minute and 32 seconds.
When did you start talking?
Right, exactly. So maybe 10 seconds in. Who knows?
But anyone that has made it this far, we do appreciate you guys checking out the show. There's so many episodes there. It's not a serial drama. You can go bounce around and check them all out, see the ones that interest you and the ones that you don't recognize. Everyone we've talked to has been fascinating in their own way. So make sure you just kind of take a look. It's an hour long. If you're sitting there running on the treadmill, going to the gym, it's a pretty solid way to waste an hour.
Really good way to get through an airplane ride now is to download a few of them. Like, I'm telling you right now, like, I mow the lawn and I fucking murder it at the lawn when I'm fucking listening to this show, because I go back and listen and I wince and feel pain a lot from the things that I say, or people say things to me.
But you feel somewhat
whatever.
smarter from the things our guests say. And I feel like we always absorb something. I always feel energized after we do these episodes, It's always some tidbit that helps make my life a little bit better. Hopefully it does it for you.
What would be great is, especially on this episode here, like, let's just make the ask, like, leave a comment for us of, like, maybe some things you'd like to hear about, because we're booking new people, we're coming up with new topics. The show originally was just to basically give ourselves something to do, and it's obviously grown quite a bit. And, we like talking to successful people. We like kind of seeing, we want to learn things. So if you guys have comments, if you want to tell Ben to shut up, feel free to put it in the...
If there's people that you guys want to see, that you say, oh, I really like this episode, with Jason Leckberg, we want to talk to more marketing people because we learned something from that. Or, hey, man, like, talk to another legendary guitarist like Steve Stevens. Like, okay, mission accepted. Alex Skolnick, mission accepted. You know what I mean? Like, we love hearing from you guys. And look, you have to also understand that when we first did a bunch of these episodes, like, especially like David Abraziz was probably our first real guest that people like gave a flying fuck about, like, right from the start. And we had Richard Shaw on, but nobody realized how awesome he was yet, because we didn't have anyone other than my mom and maybe Siobhan's mom watching this at that time. But we realized very quickly that I talk over people. But realized that when we were making this shit, we didn't have you guys to yell at us for the first, like, 20 episodes. So, like, it's just like, we didn't even think that this was gonna be a thing.
So actually, we had one of our favorite comments was that Ben sounds like a cigarette smoking a cigarette. And I would love it if people could come up with more examples.
I love those. Anything, visual.
If whoever gets the funniest comment, we'll have to see if we can maybe get some merch together.
So if you guys read in the credits, I don't know if anyone have noticed, but like I've made up fake titles that Cory puts, like really stupid titles. So like if you guys want to come up with dumb titles for me, like they could be as effacing as possible. I don't care. I think it's funny. Like literally, like, you know, I put like on-site phrenologist, and then like, you know, like HR for HR, like stupid things, like the redundancy department of redundancy, like Benny Goodman. Like come up with something that I could do, and we'll put it in the credits.
There we go.
And then if you come up with it, maybe we'll put you as like, you know, for that episode or those episodes, like, you know, producer.
There we go.
Or whatever title Cory wants to come up for you. Like, you know, like internet troll. But we'll do it, guys. Like if we can have at least 3 comments to choose from that aren't terrible, we'll do it.
Awesome.
So leave us a comment. Let us know what's going on. We'd love to hear from you. And this has been 2020-2020-D.com, sponsored by us, Lost Symphony, lostsymphony.com. Go buy a mug. They're only $14 or $15, not 30.
The neuroticguitarist.com.
Not 30, like Ben said. And check
Chapter
out
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, chapter 1, 2, and 3. Take another piece out now. And we will see you next time.
It's kind of like AI meets classical music, and it's great because you can make decisions. Because one of the things that's constrictive about classical music is the fact that. So
I just want to point out right now, because I've watched so many of your videos, the vein on Ben's neck right now, is that good vocal technique?
I have to say, speaking of comments, my favorite comment that we've ever gotten on one of our videos is someone said that his voice sounds like a cigarette smoking a cigarette.
How do you know that?
That's amazing. That's a great comment. I had a comment one time. This is just legendary now. It said, "Your left eyebrow is thicker than the other one, but nice video."